This is the man that's actually running OpenAI. His name is Greg Brockman, and he is the president of the company. He's also one of the 13 OpenAI co-founders, yet most people don't even know he exists. In fact, Greg is about 18 times less famous than Sam Altman, despite being just as important. My name is Ondrej, and this is the unknown story of Greg Brockman. Greg was born in 1987, and he grew up in Thompson, North Dakota, basically the middle of nowhere. From a young age, he was interested in mathematics, chemistry, and computer science. A great combo for a career in AI. Greg was so good at chemistry that in 2006, he managed to win the silver medal at the International Chemistry Olympiad, which took place in South Korea. 2 years later, he enrolled at Harvard, but he ended up dropping out just a year later. In 2010, Greg Brockman attended MIT, but after a few months, he dropped out as well. Seems like being a college dropout is a necessary prerequisite to make it big in the tech world. After his short run at MIT, Greg Brockman ended up joining Stripe. At the time, Stripe was just a fresh startup founded by his classmates from MIT, Patrick and John Collison, both of whom would go on to become billionaires. Greg was the third employee at Stripe, and he worked as a founding engineer until becoming CTO in 2013. Stripe's valuation grew massively while Greg was there, reaching a staggering $3.5 billion in December of 2014. That's quite the ride, since Greg was there from the beginning. I guess dropping out twice paid off in the end. However, the next year in May, Greg Brockman left Stripe to work on independent AI projects, but that didn't last long. Just 2 months later, in July, Greg went to a dinner that would end up changing his life.
We were having a dinner to discuss AI in the future and kind of just what might be possible and whether we could do something positive to affect it. So my co-founders at OpenAI, so that's Elon, Sam, Ilya, and other people were all there. And kind of the question was, is it too late to start a lab with a bunch of the best people at it? We all kind of saw that like AI feels like it's going to happen. It feels like AGI, really building human level machines, will be achievable. And what can we do as technologists, as just people who care about this problem, to try to steer in a positive direction?
After OpenAI started, it had two major problems. Number one, money, and number two, lack of great talent. But Greg Brockman isn't someone who's just gonna sit there and complain. And so he decided he's gonna solve the second problem and get some of the best AI engineers into OpenAI. That same year, Brockman met with Joshua Bengio, one of the founding fathers of the deep learning movement. Together, they drew up a list of the best researchers in the AI field. And what Greg did next could only be described as a moment of genius. Out of the 10 people on the list, Greg Brockman was able to hire 9 of them as the first OpenAI employees. Keep in mind that those aren't your average employees. They were the very best AI researchers whose salaries can reach up to $1 million a year. So how did Greg pull this off? Well, the reason is twofold. Number one is money. Greg offered corporate level salaries despite OpenAI being non-profit at the time. However, he couldn't offer them the same amount of money as Google or Meta, and so he had to rely on number two, which is OpenAI's compelling mission, building AGI to help humanity. Greg Brockman himself stated, quote, "The best thing I could imagine doing was moving humanity closer to building real AI in a safe way." In 2018, he made the Forbes 30 under 30 list in the category of enterprise technology. Brockman is also known as an angel investor, providing new startups with investment capital. As of 2022, he invested in over 20 companies, and that number is likely much higher by now. And even Greg's personal investments are around AI and robotics. For example, he founded the creation of the delivery robots by Grubhub and Eat24, the kind of robots that drive down the street and deliver food, and that people like to vandalize. Alright, so Greg Brockman helped to build Stripe into a massive company. He is the president of OpenAI. He has plenty of personal investments. So what is his net worth? Well, this was actually really hard to find, and the only numbers I could see was 400k or like a few million, but those are obviously way too low. My best guess is that Greg Brockman's net worth is in the high 8 figures. I wouldn't be surprised if it was even touching the 9 figures. Now, Greg is obviously a very smart guy, and so I wrote down some of his main beliefs. Number one, Greg sees AGI as a system that can outperform humans at most economically valuable tasks. Now, to put that into plain English, basically AI will do all the jobs out there. Let's say you want to build a new house or, I don't know, create a new company. Why would you do it? You're a mere human. You might mess it up. And AI will be much better, much more precise, much smarter. That's what he means by economically valuable tasks. Number 2, Greg believes that AI systems like ChatGPT should not deceive users about whether they're talking to an AI or a human. Now, I think we can all agree that that's a very good idea. Number 3, he believes that if you have an idea that can get even better by giving it more compute or more data, that you've just found the holy grail of AI. For example, the transformer architecture is clearly one of those ideas. Number 4, Greg Brockman emphasizes the importance of pushing the state of the art in reinforcement learning. Now, if you look back a few years ago, let's say to the time when OpenAI 5 existed, you know, the Dota bots that beat the professional players, that was accomplished by reinforcement learning. And it has come a long way. Like, look at ChatGPT. That's a much better technology than just some Dota 2 bots. And Greg believes that reinforcement learning has some major potential. So we'll see. Maybe OpenAI has something cooking up. Maybe we'll see another breakthrough later this year. But one thing is clear, reinforcement learning has some potential. Greg also believes that both ideas and scale are important in deep learning. So you don't just need a supercomputer, you also need a good idea to utilize that compute properly. Greg also hopes that one day it will be possible to have an emotional connection with an AI, similarly to the movie Her. Now, this is a very interesting take by Greg, but I'm not sure how his wife would feel about it. Okay, so Greg Brockman has obviously played a major role in ChatGPT's development. So why does he think that ChatGPT has been so successful?
We made it accessible. We built an interface that was super simple. It was kind of the simplest interface we could think of. We made it available for free to anyone.
But the release of ChatGPT wasn't just a walk in the park. There were some major concerns at OpenAI, and this is Greg's main concern.
As we were preparing ChatGPT for release, the thing I kept telling to the team was the most important thing. We can be overly conservative in terms of like refusing to do anything that seems even a little bit sketchy. That's fine. Most important thing is that we don't have to like turn it off in 3 days.
Next, Greg talks about his aha moment, meaning the moment he realized that AI has some serious potential.
I remember reading Alan Turing's 1950 paper on the Turing test. And the thing that really stuck out to me, and this was, right after high school, was he said, look, you're never going to program a machine to solve this problem. Instead, you need a machine that can actually learn how to do it. And that for me was the aha moment.
Today, OpenAI is massively successful, but it wasn't always like that. In fact, the beginnings were quite hard.
Ilya and I, we were really the ones running the company in the early days. Spent a lot of time really thinking about how do you turn this into the kind of impact that we think is possible, into something that really can make a difference in terms of just how beneficial AGI ends up being.
However, everything got a lot easier when Microsoft invested the first $1 billion into OpenAI. And this is how Greg sees the partnership.
We're working together with Microsoft to build next generation supercomputers. And the real goal of OpenAI and what we're trying to accomplish is to build what we call artificial general intelligence.
Alright, so what actually is OpenAI's goal? Is it to help humanity or is it to maximize profits for Microsoft?
So the way that we think about this is our goal is to distribute the economic benefits of artificial general intelligence.
What's crazy is that this is from 2019, meaning it's 3 years before ChatGPT was released, and Greg Brockman basically predicted something like ChatGPT would exist. Take a listen.
Imagine a personalized tutor that can really understand you, that is available for free to every person on the planet. That's the kind of thing we should be able to build with the kind of systems that we want to create.
It's kind of funny because after making an incredible prediction, Greg talks about the difficulty of making accurate predictions in the AI field.
So the timelines here are always really hard to predict, right? And so in 1878, you had Thomas Edison announce that he was going to create the incandescent lamp, and gas securities in England fell. So British Parliament put together a commission of distinguished experts who came out to Menlo Park. They checked everything out. They said, this isn't going to work. And 1 year later, he shipped. And so I think that we're in a similar sort of place here where it's hard to predict what the future will be like.
Subscribe if you want me to make more videos like this.